All right, so this Hangout on Air is live. And hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of Random Tan Experience. Um, so this has been a pretty eventful week. You can hear that not everybody's asleep in the house, but that's okay. That's again the beauty of this sort of um, eclectic household.
Yeah.
I was about to say, like I said last week, this is really, really what life is like without unscripted, right? Without a script. But we've committed to sharing our story every week at this time, 9:30 on Wednesday nights Eastern time, live with all of you guys. And so for those of you guys who are watching online and through the Hangouts, you can see on the lower corner of the YouTube link there that if you click on that, you can join in the conversation and join the join the discussion. Anyway,
and then we can see you.
And then, well, actually, no, you can't. No, not if you click through that link.
Just on the Hangout.
Yeah, just on the Hangout. A little later on, we're going to have, some guest speakers and stuff. And, once we figure out how to work that technology, and then, we'll see who's talking and then who's not. So that's going to be kind of cool. But this week, I wanted to share one of our homeschool Random Tan homeschool science projects. So this is sprouting chia. And it's really cool. It's pretty simple. We just got some organic chia at the store, and then just put it in. You have to sprout it a little bit differently. There's different ways to sprout different seeds. Chia specifically needs to be sprouted in a terracotta plate without water inside it. You actually have to put the plate in water and then spray the seeds with the light mist. Otherwise, the seeds are going to form this kind of like gelatinous mush.
Goop.
Yeah, this goop. And if you're wondering if this is the same chia as the Chia Pet, some of you guys are singing the theme song right now. It is. This is the Chia Pet.
And who knew you could eat it?
Who knew you can eat it? It's actually a superfood. I've been sprinkling just the seeds on my cereal. It's been amazing. I haven't had really any cravings until lunch. I've had lots of energy through the day, and also throwing this into smoothies.
Mm-hmm. You can see there's a chunk taken out of there because we did that
right
today.
Here we did that today. So we just added it with the kids' smoothies. Throw it in with a bunch of berries and a bunch of spinach and stuff, and with a little bit of sweetener and like a stevia sweetener, and it's pretty good. The kids love it, especially if you use something like dark berries, like strawberries are good. It gives it kind of a pinkish hue, but the blackberries are awesome.
Yeah, they hide lots of stuff.
Tons. Our kids have had lots of stuff they didn't even realize that they've had.
Flax and kale and spinach and all kinds of stuff.
I'm just going to jump off screen for a second here. Okay, and I'm back. All right, so this week we said if you read the description, we're going to be talking about the differences between boys and girls, raising boys and girls.
Raising boys and raising girls.
Raising boys and raising girls. And
because it's been one of the most interesting things for me. So I was an only child growing up. And so people are always surprised to hear that when they hear that we have 9 kids and they ask, and how many in the family you came from? I said, just me. And they're always like, whoa, kind of like, you had no idea what you were letting yourself in for, did you? And I had an inkling. No, I didn't have any idea how loud it would get. But one of the interesting things was the differences between boys and girls, and particularly coming from a psychology background. And there's all these, differing theories about whether boys are the way they are because of how they are genetically, or whether it's because of how we raise them to behave.
I have to say that, so both of us have degrees in psychology, and I have to say that there's one thing about reading about it, and then as parents,
It's a whole other different
it's
level
a whole
of tired.
different, it's a whole different level. But one of the things you learn when you're taking psychology, the nature nurture, and I used to lean towards more the nurture side, but once we started having kids, especially since we were pretty pretty aware, we wanted to make sure that our kids didn't grow up with the same stereotypical views and whatnot. But when Aileen picked up,
so our second, so we had a boy first, and then we had a girl second, and so we had a lot of boy toys, blocks and cars, and when the second baby came along, we didn't necessarily go out and get a bunch of specifically girly toys. So Aileen grew up initially with lots of cars and blocks, and we were out at a playgroup one day, and she had just started to walk. She was 9.5 months. She had just started taking her own steps, and she toddled over to a toy box, and she picked out a baby doll. And she carried that baby doll around for the next 2 hours while we were at that playgroup. And I thought, well, gee, I certainly never trained her to do that.
But
that was
there are some things that are definitely, definitely nature.
Just inherently girl and inherently boy.
Very much. One of the books that we recommend a lot, actually, to parents, we've started saying that every daughter,
every father of a daughter and every mother of a son.
I'm just gonna hold it up here. Why Gender Matters, by Dr. Leonard Sachs. Why Gender Matters, Dr. Leonard Sachs. Amazing book. It was really, really enlightening, really, just really opened our eyes. I have to say that I was a big skeptic. When I started reading it, I was like, I don't know, I'm not really sure. And he started, talking about some of the, so just a little bit of a background. Dr. Leonard Sachs is a neurophysiologist. Is that right? Anyway,
something
so he took something like 30 years of research, of brain anatomy research, and
the fascinating thing is that you can actually, apparently, if you look on a microscope, a trained researcher can tell the difference between a male brain and a female brain microscopically, because their physical structure is actually different.
And so, and you took the last 30 years of research of this and explained, how these differences in brain structure would actually manifest, in certain, in
certain behaviors.
In certain behaviors, that's it, right? So certain behaviors, and whatever. I mean, this just it doesn't, like, it sounds kind of smoke and mirrors, and anyway, there's lots of stuff. But my selling point was when he described the different ways that boys and girls like to learn math. And when I was reading it, and I was reading the girl lesson, and I was still a teacher at this point. I was still, teaching, and I was reading the girl math lesson, and I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting. And then I started reading the boy lesson, and I found it fascinating. But I said, okay, well, let me test this out. And I said to, so I brought it down to Liz, and I started reading, and I started reading the boy lesson, and I was using all of the vocal techniques, the intonation, the up and down, the dramatic timing and everything, right? But,
I was like, yeah, okay, sure,
okay,
whatever.
And then I started reading the girl lesson, and really, I was not into the girl lesson. It was just kind of boring. So I was reading it kind of, bored, monotone and everything. And all of a sudden.
And I was like, really? I didn't hear about it that way. That makes so much sense.
And, so I was like, okay, so that is a little different. I know that the mic is picking up Rasheen there. I don't know if Matthias is going to need some help there in a second.
You might. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to go get
Maybe
her.
I'll grab her.
Okay.
This will be
So yeah, one second.
really unscripted.
So, but this is it, right? So here we go. This is what life is like. This is what life is like, in a house full of 9 kids. And actually, 2 of our older kids are just over here off camera playing cards and texting while they're playing cards with each other. But that's okay, because that's just the new way that that life is. Anyway, if you're just joining us on the show, and you want to throw us some questions live, you can click on the link there on the YouTube, the YouTube link to join the conversation. Or you can also email us at randomtanexperience at com. So, anytime you want, I'm going to actually put our email address in this YouTube link, because for some reason I still can't. The baby just kind of bonked her head a little bit. So I still can't figure out how to work this lower third thing, and I was searching all over YouTube or Google trying to figure out how to figure this out. Anyway, so what we wanted to talk about, the difference between boys and girls, and some of the things of note that we noticed over the years, especially with our kids. So, and this is really important, especially for new parents. Okay, so new parents with younger kids, especially like under the age of 5, because you'll see like that. Some of these differences between boys and girls. For example, headbanging, right? So
that's a good one.
Yeah, so that's actually one of my favorite stories. So when Gavin, who is our oldest, actually, here, see, they're really having a good time. I'm gonna turn the camera over here. Say hi, guys. Say hi, everybody. Oh, say hi, Matthias. Say hi. They're laughing at something. I don't know what they're laughing at, but somebody did something. I think there might have been farting noises involved. I don't know, but boys, you see, that's boys, right? See, that's boys. So anyway, oh, hey, look, we even have a special guest here tonight too. Look, Alex, wave to the camera. Say hi. Wave, everybody. Yeah, see, there you go. Oh, look at our mess there. That's okay. All right, so boys are stinky, and they're they can make a big mess, and they
sometimes like to bang their heads.
Okay, so here's my story. So when Gavin was what?
He was about 18 months old.
18 months old, and he would walk around the house, and he'd like to smash his head on stuff.
He would do it experimentally. He would tap his head on something and think about it for a second, and he would tap it a little harder and think about it again, and then eventually he would do that gradually harder and harder, and eventually he'd rear back and go whack, and then he'd cry.
And Liz, being an only child, never seen this before, was kind of a little bit concerned about that,
alarmed at times.
And I just looked at him. I said, well, I think he's just being a boy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
that wasn't good enough for me.
No, it wasn't. I don't think she believed me. Oh, I think she's sounding. So apologies out there if she's sounding like, if Rasheen is sounding really loud there. But anyway, so we went to at the next doctor's appointment. We went and and Liz brought this up with our doctor, with our pediatrician, and said, he's kind of banging his head, and so he looked at her and said, well,
you got a headbanger.
That's it. That was it. So, so
apparently normal boy behavior.
Okay. Boys will also, when you tell boys not to do something, they look at it like a challenge, right?
And if you tell them not to do it because they'll hurt themselves, even more so.
Yeah, because, when boys do something and then they get hurt, it's like, oh, how can I do this and not get hurt? And they'll try it again. You see, parents, again, so.
And boys actually, they apparently get a rush of adrenaline from pain.
That's right. So one of the differences, so that's one of the things that Dr. Leonard Sachs says in the book. the differences between boys and girls is in the pain response, boys will get an adrenaline rush, girls will feel nausea, will often feel nausea. So, that's why 90% of all the fail videos on YouTube involve guys, like a lot, like, and the skateboarding ones and everything like that. There's girl ones too, right? But you'll see a lot of guys, on these fail videos, because that's what, I guess that's what they like to do. And hey, they come across it. They come across it honestly. There's a famous story, my story, of when I was, I don't know, I guess I must have been, I can't remember how old I was, but
Before I knew you.
yeah, no, and I must have been maybe about 12 years old, and I took one of my parents. I can't believe I'm saying this over like the internet, because my parents might not even know the story. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, they will now. So I took my parents' one of my parents' bed sheet, and I climbed out of the second story window over the garage, and I, with the four corners of the bed sheet, in my, like, just two corners in each hand, and I jumped off the garage, and I landed in the ditch, and I was lying there. I was like, oh, I can't breathe. Oh, I should have used a lighter sheet. That's boys, right? So that's what, this story, instead of like boys versus girls, it's really, really about, boys. Yeah. But parents, and I guess we're saying this because, parents, we have friends, who have young boys and are new parents. Yeah.
And it can be overwhelming.
It can really be overwhelming.
And you start to doubt yourself as a parent sometimes, if you haven't, if it's your first or your second, and it's, you're still going through the ringer of just learning which way is up with, it's overwhelming.
Yeah. So anyway, that's that's raising boys. So what about girls?
What about girls? I don't know. Girls are, well, I understand girls a little more intuitively, so they just I don't know if I have any specific girls stories, because for me all the eye-opening experiences were about discovering boys.
What boys were like, right?
Yeah. The interesting thing can be the interaction between them.
Yeah.
So and one of the things that I've learned as an only child, watching the dynamics between our multiple children, is that no one can push your buttons like a sibling can.
That's right. No one can push your buttons like a sibling can.
Yeah.
Nobody can ever. You will want to punch them in the face.
They grow up watching all those buttons form, and they know exactly where to.
Yeah. So, another cool thing that the book covers about, the differences between boys and girls is in their art, and boys will tend to draw things that are, in third person. When boys create art at a young age, they tend to create art in third person, whereas girls will tend to draw, in a very interactive way, like the pictures of, the people looking out at you, looking back at you, whereas boys, might just draw this big, huge battle scene, but you're sort of on the outside looking in, and Rasheen is there wanting to make herself known.
We have noted that girls are often more chatty.
Yes, they are. Most of our girls talked earlier than the boys. Girls tend to find their words, before the boys do. Which is kind of cool. And yeah, so just, you know, what else? Actually, girls can hear a wider range of tones. I found this part fascinating. See, boys will hear lower bass notes, right? But with girls will hear a wider range of tones
and a finer distinction between tones.
Right. So whereas boys won't, right? But as boys don't. So one of the things that we're just gonna pull her away from the mic because I know how loud this mic gets. But fascinating when I read this book, I finally read this and I came back. I read it over Christmas break, and I came back and I rearranged my classroom. This might be interesting to some of you teachers out there. I rearranged my classroom based on some of the things that I learned from the book, and I would have to say about 80% of my classroom management problems gone in that first class, just by rearranging my classroom, based on some of the observations that that I learned reading the book. So that was pretty awesome. So again, so any of you teachers out there, I highly recommend the book. Again, the book is Why Gender Matters by Dr. Leonard Sachs. Okay. And you can if you go onto our blog, Random Tan Experience, I'll put the link in the YouTube page again, and you can books I recommend. It's in the books I recommend section. So yeah, you can go check it out. Yeah, so really cool.
Yelling at the girls.
Oh yeah, so well, I don't want to do any spoilers, but when I rearranged the classroom, I I rearranged in a particular way, and I didn't tell them that I was, what I was doing. I was just rearranging the classroom, and continued the class. And I actually spoke softer than I usually do, but because of the way that the class was arranged, I didn't have to raise my voice. Well, when the class ended, I explained I explained that I read the book over Christmas break, and I was just trying something out, trying my own little experiment. And I looked at one of my I looked at one of the students, one of the girls, and said, you probably thought that I was yelling at you all year. And and she was like, yeah, I thought you were yelling at me all the time. Like it was really funny. It was actually funny because but I wasn't. I was just talking loud, projecting my voice the way that they tell you all teachers have to do. Try project to the back of the classroom, right? But yeah, just because of where where the girls were sitting, it just felt like I was yelling at them all the time. But I wasn't. So yeah, it was awesome. So yeah, I definitely recommend. Definitely recommend that book. What else?
Boys and girls.
We want to hear your questions too. So, we're coming to the end of this show. It's coming to the top of the hour. We're gonna have to, because somebody's getting a little bit tired and ready to sleep. But yeah, we want to know your questions too. So our email address again is randomtanexperience@gmail.com, and I'll put that in the YouTube link. But we totally want to hear from you. What are your questions? What your comments, your feedback? Things that things that you want to know. So yeah, living in a family with 11 people, being self-employed, work from home entrepreneurs. I mean, this is, life is